The auxiliary vector H for the magnetic field. Biot-Savart law established and explained. Its application to a long straight wire is also discussed. We establish Ampere's circuital theorem and discuss its application to a long straight wire, a circular loop of wire, and a solenoid. The expressions for magnetic scalar potential and magnetomotive force are also established. It is customary to use the term field to describe the properties of a region of space that in turn determine the physical phenomena observed to take place in the region. Previously, the term electric field was introduced and defined as force per unit charge on an infinitesimal test charge. The term magnetic induction has already been employed to designate the analogous electromagnetic quantity, that is, force experienced by a moving charge or an infinitesimal element of current carrying filament. In order that the concept of magnetic field may have an important extension as an auxiliary vector, it is defined by the equation H is equal to I upon 4 pi closed integral dl cross unit vector r upon r square. Its units are ampere per meter. The magnetic field is equal to the magnetic induction divided by mu 0. The magnetic field due to a series of circuits is the sum of all the H's for the circuits separately. For a volume distribution, IDL is equal to QV, which is equal to rho V dV. Therefore, H becomes equal to I rho upon 4 pi closed integral V cross R upon R square dV. This diagram is used to determine and establish magnetic scalar potential. Let P be the point at which H is to be determined. Let us displace P by an amount delta R. This is equivalent to holding P fixed and displacing the current loop by an amount minus delta R. Recall that H is equal to I upon 4 pi closed integral dl cross R upon R square. Hence minus H dot delta R will be equal to minus I upon 4 pi closed integral dl cross R upon R square dot delta R. Now minus dl cross R upon R square dot delta R can be rewritten as R dot dl cross delta R upon R square. For a triple scalar product, the dot and cross are interchangeable. Now let us look at the modulus of dl cross delta r. It is simply equal to dl delta r sine theta. Theta being the angle between delta r and dl. The displacement of the circuit results in a ribbon-like surface being traced out. dl cross delta r is an element of this ribbon-like surface. R dot dl cross delta r is the projection of this elemental surface normal to the vector r. R dot dl cross delta r upon r square represents the element of solid angle subtended by the elemental surface at P. The integral around the circuit would be the total solid angle subtended by the entire ribbon surface. Thus, H dot delta R is equal to minus I delta omega by 4 pi. By Gauss's theorem, the integral of delta omega over a closed surface vanishes if P lies outside the enclosed volume. In discussing magnetic effects of the electrical circuits, surfaces are encountered which are not closed. We need to redefine the sign of the outward drawn normal. Now we say the normal to the surface is positive if it lies in the direction of advance of a right hand screw which rotates in the direction of the current. Let us consider two surfaces bound by the two positions of the circuit and the ribbon is forming a closed drum-like surface. Then delta omega is equal to minus open brackets omega I plus omega f. But if we use the above sign convention, then delta omega is equal to minus open brackets omega I minus omega f close brackets. Therefore, delta omega now represents the difference in solid angles subtended by the circuit in its initial, that is first, and second, final state. So delta omega is equal to gradient of omega dot delta r. So H dot delta r becomes equal to minus I gradient of omega delta r upon 4 pi, which is equal to minus gradient of I omega 4 upon 4 pi. So H becomes equal to minus gradient of omega, where omega is the magnetic scalar potential. The magnetic scalar potential helps us to introduce Ampere's circuital theorem linked to the concept of magnetomotive force. Consider the integral of H around a closed path. Then closed integral H dot dl is known as the magnetomotive force and it is denoted by a curly H. The integral of closed integral dl dot gradient of omega will be equal to plus minus 4 pi if the path links the circuit, but it is going to be 0 if the path does not link the circuit. This is known as Ampere's circuital theorem. It had to be modified later on to include the magnetic effects of a changing electric field. Calculate the magnetic field with the Biot-Savart law. Consider a magnetic force on a moving charge. Fp is equal to qv cross p. The magnetic force exerted on a current element is dFp equal to I dl cross p. dl is a vector whose length is equal to the length of the element of the wire and whose direction is the direction of the current in that element. Hence, we can go from an expression describing the force on an individual moving charge to one describing the force on a current element by replacing qv with I dl. The diagram shows the magnetic field dB produced by an element of a current carrying wire. The field is perpendicular to the plane containing ds and r. We see the contribution dB to the magnetic field due to the current element. The current element IDL is replaced by a charge element moving with a velocity v. So dB is equal to mu 0.4 pi IDL cross r upon r cubed is replaced by dq v cross r upon r cubed. The velocity v can be written as ds by dt, which means that the charge moves through a displacement ds in a time dt. Therefore, dB is equal to mu 0.4 pi IDS cross r upon r cubed. So dB is equal to mu 0.4 pi IDS sine phi upon r cubed. And it is this expression which is known as the Biot-Savart law. The direction of B is the same as ds cross r, phi being the angle between the vector ds, which indicates the direction of current, and the vector r from the current element to the point of observation P. B due to the entire current distribution would be B equal to closed integral dB, which is equal to closed integral mu 0.4 pi IDS cross r upon r cubed. We will have to take into account that not all elements of P are in the same direction. Now we consider the application of Biot-Savart law. Consider a straight wire segment. The wire lies along the z-axis. To find B at a point on the y-axis a distance d from the wire, let us choose an arbitrary element of the wire IDS located at a coordinate 00z with respect to the origin. The contribution dB of this element to the field at P is given by dB is equal to mu 0.4 pi IDS cross r upon r cubed. Using the right-hand rule for vectors, not Fleming's right-hand rule, we can show that in the geometry of the figure, ds cross r is a vector that points in the negative x direction, that is into the paper. This is true for every element of the wire. Hence, when we add up all the elements, the total field is in the negative x direction. Since ds is in the z direction, then ds can be rewritten as the limits of integration extend from minus capital L by 2 to plus capital L by 2. R is given by under root of z square plus d square. Sine phi is actually equal to sine pi minus phi, and both are equal. So this is, if you look at the figure, then sine phi, which is equal to sine pi minus phi, is equal to d by r, which is equal to d by under root of z square plus d square. Therefore, dB is equal to mu 0 I upon 4 pi dz sine phi upon r square, which is rewritten as mu 0 I upon 4 pi d upon under root of z square plus d square to the third power dz, or B is equal to mu 0 id upon 4 pi integral going from minus L by 2 to plus L by 2 1 upon z square plus d square raised to the power 3 half dz. Adding up all the elements, P is equal to mu 0 I upon 4 pi d L upon L square by 4 plus d square raised to the power half. For a very long wire, L is very much larger than d. Therefore, B comes out to be equal to mu 0 I upon 4 pi d L upon L by 2, which is equal to mu 0 I upon 2 by d. This is simply a restatement of the Biot-Savart law. Next, we discuss the applications of Ampere's circuital theorem. Consider an infinitely long straight current carrying filament. Let us choose an Amperian loop as a circle of radius d centered on the wire. From symmetry, B depends only on d. B is a constant around the chosen path. B only has a tangential component. Therefore, closed integral B dot dl is equal to B closed integral dl, which is equal to B dot 2 pi d, which is equal to mu 0 I. So B is equal to mu 0 I upon 2 pi d. Next, we discuss the field on the axis of a circular loop of wire. The elementary current is at a distance r from any element of the circuit to a fixed point on the axis and is a constant and equal to r equal to under root of x square plus p square. R is perpendicular to dl. dh is equal to I upon 4 pi dl cross r upon r square. By symmetry, the component of h perpendicular to the axis vanishes for the complete circuit. The resultant H is in the direction of the axis, so dH resultant is equal to dH cos phi. H is equal to integral cos phi dH, which is equal to I upon 4 pi closed integral B upon R dl cross R upon R square, which is equal to I upon 4 pi closed integral B upon x square plus b square raised to the power 3 half dl, which is equal to I upon 4 pi b upon x square plus b square raised to the power 3 half closed integral dl, which is equal to I upon 4 pi b upon x square plus b square raised to the power 3 half twice pi b, which is equal to I by 2 b square upon x square plus b square raised to the power 3 by 2. Therefore, the axial magnetic field comes out to be equal to I by 2 b square upon x square plus b square raised to the power 3 half. This is a very useful expression because the axial field due to the configuration of coaxial loops can be calculated from it. The most brilliant application of Ampere's law comes in discussing the magnetic field due to a solenoid. A solenoid is a long wire wound in a close packed helix and carrying a current I. Let us assume that the helix is very long as compared to its diameter. For points close to the single turn of the solenoid, the observer is not aware that the wire is bent in an arc. So the wire behaves magnetically almost like a long straight wire. The lines of P due to a single turn are almost concentric. In the limiting case, the solenoid becomes essentially a cylindrical current sheet and the fields tend to cancel between the wires. Also at points inside the solenoid and reasonably far from the wires, B is parallel to the solenoid. For points such as P, the field is set up by the upper part of the solenoid turns and points to the left and tends to cancel the field set up by the lower part of the solenoid which points to the right. As the solenoid becomes more and more ideal, the field of induction at outside points approaches zero. The field B is parallel to the solenoid axis, so closed integral B dot dl is equal to integral from A to B B dot dl, from C to B B dot dl, from C to D B dot dl, and from D to A B dot dl. But integral B to C B dot dl is 0, so is integral D to A, because for every element of these paths, B is at right angles to the path. Also, integral C to D B dot dl is also 0 because for points lying outside the solenoid, B is 0. Closed integral B dot dl is equal to BH. If the number of turns per unit length is N and the current through the solenoid is I0, then the net current enclosed by the path is I0 NH. BH is equal to mu0 I0 NH, so B is equal to mu0 I0 N. B does not depend upon the diameter or length of the solenoid. B is constant over the solenoid cross section. If we plot the expression for the field of a solenoid as a function of the location along the axis for an ideal and two non-ideal solenoids, we note that as the solenoid becomes longer and narrower, thus approaching ideal behavior, the field along the axis becomes more nearly constant and drops off more rapidly to zero beyond the ends of the solenoid.